Hi there. Now we're going to do lesson 16. I have no neutral thoughts. The idea for today is a beginning step in dispelling the belief that your thoughts have no effect. Everything you see is the result of your thoughts. There is no exception to this fact. Thoughts are not big or little, powerful or weak. They are merely true or false. This is something that we have got to understand. Everything that we label, every meaning that we put on things comes with a right or wrong, a good or a bad, a weak thought or a bad thought, a disempowering thought, all kinds of craziness. And we need to understand that everything is a result of what we think. So we are being trained to realize that everything is true or false. It's true according to God, or it is false. If it is false according to God, then we have made something up. We are operating from the ego and we're giving it a label that is a block to the truth of what God says is there. So for a quick example, back to Spencer. When I was seeing Spencer as a holy being, that is the truth of him according to God. So if I am seeing him as a screw up because he's now a drug addict, or even calling him a drug addict, which the mind already labels that as a bad thing, now I am seeing something that is false. I am superimposing on the holy child of God. I am superimposing my opinion about him, giving it my own meaning. So when I do this, I am clearly seeing something that is false, that is not true about Spencer, according to God. Sentence number 6. Those that are true create their own likeness. So when we begin to see, okay, he's a holy child of God, when I begin to focus on the goodness that is there, it's going to be creating for me the awareness of more about him that is holy to focus on. If I focus on what is false, but seems true according to the ego, I'm going to amplify that as well. Those that are false make their own likeness because what we focus on expands. If I'm focusing on his holiness, which is what I had to force myself to do in the beginning, I had to force myself. I had to override my ego telling me that he was, messing up. Then I had to go to what does God believe? What does God know is the truth? Go into a place of neutrality within me so that I could feel the truth of who he was. I began to sense his holiness again. I began to focus on that. That expanded. My ego got activated. I came to the other side. I would see that. I would have to shift myself. Which is why shift and lift is what we're constantly doing. We're shifting from the low density of the what is false that we have been trained to believe is true according to the ego, and shift and lift into the higher frequency that creates its own likeness when you focus on it. Paragraph number 2. There is no more self-contradictory concept than that of idle thoughts. What gives rise to the perception of a whole world can hardly be called idle. Every thought you have contributes to truth or to illusion. Either it extends the truth or it multiplies illusions. You have to understand that any thought that is in your mind, the universe is saying yes to. You're believing that life is good, you're going to get more to say life is good about. If you believe that life sucks, you're going to get more to say, yeah, that sucks. That's why people who complain are habitual complainers, because everything shows up darkly for them. When you are operating from a place of seeing the light and everything shows up lightly for you. It's so clear when you begin to monitor your thoughts, when you begin to become aware of the voices in your head, these roommates that are constantly yakking, you will see that there is a propensity in the beginning for negativity. Some of us include a fair amount of positive in there, but the propensity is for negativity. When you begin to observe that, then one of the most automatic things that we want to do is we want to make him positive, and that's good because you're balancing. However, you want to get to the place where you move out of the pendulum swinging so that your thoughts are not taking over in positive or negative, and you can relax and allow the thoughts of God to come through you, because that's where intuition comes in. Intuition needs a quiet mind to arise. We're constantly getting intuitive hits, but if the mind is busy making its own opinions, you cannot hear the voice of the Holy Spirit in you. All right, so you can indeed multiply nothing. So you can be looking at things that are negative, which is ultimately is nothing. I can call Spencer all kinds of negative things, but it's nothing. According to God, none of my thoughts that are negative, that are ego-based, they're absolutely nothing. They're just my opinions, and they're creating my experience of Spencer, but it doesn't alter what Spencer is. You can indeed multiply nothing, but you will not extend it by doing so. So no matter how much I think negatively about him, it does not make it true. It does not amplify Spencer as negative. But when I focus on what is true, I focus on how God sees it. As I expand my heart to multiply the truth, it does extend. He begins to feel it. He begins to own it. He begins to sense the activation inside of him of somebody who has noticed the truth that is within him. This stuff is so powerful, and I cannot convince you how powerful these lessons are, but I can assure you that if you try them, you will discover the efficacy of these exercises, because there is no way in the world, if you do them as you are told, that they will not transform you and transform your life. Paragraph number 3. Besides your recognizing that thoughts are never idle, salvation requires that you also recognize that every thought you have brings either peace or war, either love or fear. So the egoic thoughts take us from peace to war, love to fear. They're constantly causing us to feel something. Now, when we are trying to add a positive spin on things, it might feel like love for a little while, but egoic positive thoughts do not sustain a sense of inner peace. They don't. They give you a temporary high where you feel good. But that space inside where there is that inner peace, that true love of the Creator, the peace that passes all understanding, that is something that we have to work toward after we get clear about the positive and the negative from the ego perspective is something that we are creating, but we want to go below that to what God knows is the truth. So a neutral result is impossible, because a neutral thought is impossible. You on your own cannot neutralize your ego thoughts. Ego always goes positive, negative, positive, negative. To go below that is to go to the intuitive knowingness, which does not arise in the form of a thought. It arises in the form of a knowing, of a feeling, of a sensation. There is such a temptation to dismiss fear thoughts as unimportant, trivial, and not worth bothering about, that it is essential to recognize them all as equally destructive, but equally unreal. So don't try to just be positive, because those are equally destructive and unreal, because they cover up the truth that God wants you to know. But we've got to get comfortable with that we have fear-based thoughts and allow them to be there so that we can observe them and see them for what they are, and use them in these exercises to show us what they have been blocking for us all along. Sentence number 4, still paragraph 3. We will practice this idea in many forms before you really understand it. That is so true. Years of me doing these lessons on a regular basis, and I'm going on, I think 8 years now, of practicing these Course in Miracles lessons regularly. I do miss a day or two here and there, but my practice is to do them on a regular basis. And 8 years later, they still allow me to discover deeper layers that are underneath all of this, and every single bit of it is allowing me to come closer to the understanding of the truth that Jesus is attempting for us to get here. Paragraph number 4. In applying the idea for today, search your mind for a minute or so with eyes closed, and actively seek not to overlook any little thought that may tend to elude the search. This is quite difficult until you get used to it. you will find that it is still hard for you not to make artificial distinctions. Every thought that occurs to you, regardless of the qualities that you assign to it, is a suitable subject for applying today's idea. So just use everything that comes up. Paragraph 5. In the practice periods, first repeat the idea to yourself, and then as each one crosses your mind, hold it in awareness while you tell yourself. So we're going to start off with, I have no neutral thoughts. This is the lesson. This thought about Spencer is not a neutral thought. That thought about Ken is not a neutral thought. So I get a thought, oh, Spencer, my gosh, he's messing up again. This thought about Spencer is not a neutral thought. Why? Because I have no neutral thoughts. I don't have money for the bill. This thought is not a neutral thought. Why? Because I don't have neutral thoughts. That bill is coming in, it's activating fear, it's activating worry. Going to the doctor is, I'm going to get a diagnosis that I don't like. That thought is not a neutral thought because it's activating fear. And I have no neutral thoughts. So you're going to have the thoughts that come up for you. What if the boss doesn't like me? That thought's activating fear, concern, worry. I have no neutral thoughts. This thought about my boss is not a neutral thought. And that's the main thing about this exercise is you want to let yourself know, oh, wow, that thought is coming positive or negative. It's going to make me swing. I'm not going to be able to hear the intuitive knowingness because this is what I want you to understand. The intuitive knowledge that you need to give you the answer that is going to be most appropriate to deal with what is happening in a fresh new way. You cannot hear it while you're busy listening to your ego, while you're, as Einstein said, trying to solve a problem with the same mind that created it. With your fears, you're not going to solve a thing. You get quiet and you go below the noise, intuition's going to come. Inspiration for how to deal with a job, inspiration for how to deal with that partner, inspiration to how to deal with a diagnosis, inspiration to how to deal with your child that's doing drugs, the new job, the whatever, paying the bill. That inspiration wants to come to you, but you're blocking it while you are swinging from one side to the other, trying to figure it out with a mind that created the problem. So this is just so powerful. Sentence number 4. As usual, use today's idea whenever you are aware of a particular thought that arouses uneasiness. The following form is suggested for this purpose. This thought about Spencer is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. This thought about the job is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. Paragraph 6. 4 or 5 practice periods are recommended if you find them relatively effortless. If strain is experienced, 3 will be enough. The length of the exercise period should also be reduced if there is discomfort. Again, Jesus wants us to understand that our thoughts are powerful. We have no idle thoughts. They categorize the world. They have us feel the good or the bad. They have us feel close to things or afar from things. They have us come into a relationship or leave the relationship. So our thoughts are powerful. Our thoughts are running our lives. And we are being invited to begin to take an inventory of the thoughts so that we can see what we're doing, because there is a cause and effect relationship. We are causing the world that we perceive, and it has an effect of us feeling good or bad. And it's important that we understand that all of that appears to be out there is happening here. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you in the next lesson.